All right, guys. August 19th, 2021. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope everybody has their coffee. Everybody's ready to get started here. Do a quick audio check really fast. Make sure the audio is working okay. Okay, perfect. All right, I think we're good to go. I don't see any live people in here yet. You guys awake yet? Let's see. Oh, there we go. There's the chat. All right, guys. So let's get the day started. Looks like market just opened up, guys. Turns out I was right about all these short setups here. I mean, Square, we talked about this a couple days ago. PNC, we talked about a couple days ago. That would have been an awesome short position there. This was from the 16th, though, actually. So hold on. It was Wednesday, Tuesday. So this was on Monday is when I was talking about these short positions, which JPM would have worked out really well. ARKK would have worked out really well. SLB would have worked out really well. Disney would have worked out really well. Square would have worked out really well. But anyway, I've been taking on a lot of long trades this week, which is obviously not ideal because the market's been shitty this whole week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sorry, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today. No. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Today is Thursday. God. Sorry, I sound like an idiot right there. 1, 2, 3. Today is Thursday. So we're actually lower than this 200-day moving average, which doesn't make any sense to me. The last time the Russell 2000 went somewhat underneath the 200-day moving average was back in October of 2020. So this is a first for us, guys. Normally it'll come down near the 200 and bounce, but this time it looks like it's dropping even further. I thought it would maybe get stopped at 215 or so, 215 to maybe the mid 214s, which it was at yesterday, and now it's opening up at 213. So I have a reason to believe that we can get some buying pressure coming in. So if that happens, then we can basically get some shares for pretty cheap. Looks like PNC is starting to run back up. The only problem, though, is a lot of these are dropping below their 20s. So that's below its 20. That one's not quite below the 20. It's that yellow line. It's still trading above it. Okay, so like I was saying yesterday, guys, I want to go over this really quickly just so you guys can, just so I can recap basically what I was talking about last night. It's a process, not this week's market. Yeah. I'm not worried about it at all, especially when you keep your losses small. I mean, look at this. I've gotten stopped out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different trades. Guys, if I did not have these stop losses, I'd be losing a ton of money right now. But instead, 2%, 1.8%, 1.6%, 2.8%, 0.83%, 1% down. This is my only active one because ARRY, I closed the hold on. ARRY, I ended up canceling yesterday. So this is my only active trade right now, and I don't really necessarily want to increase my exposure until this rundown is over. I got stopped out of everything out of the opening bell. Yeah, but that's okay though, right? Getting stopped out of trades. I mean, I understand that's frustrating. I mean, look at me. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades that I got stopped out of this week. Okay, just this week alone, I got stopped out. Or sorry, the last 2 weeks, I got stopped out of 5 trades so far. Okay, and then I had to cancel this one because off of this green bar, it's a good elephant bar and whatnot. I would have my stop down there. But what I want is I want this next candle to be crossing up the high of this last candle here. If I could see it breaking through the highs of this last candle, then that would be more of an entry signal. But also what I was talking about and what I'm going to go over is kind of positioning and stuff. So I talked to you guys about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys these notes at the end. Today is August 19th, 2021. Okay, guys. Did anybody see my post last night about this stuff up here? Okay. So we have a few things, okay? We have a few things to consider, right? So here's the data that I am gathering on every single trade, okay? And everybody should be gathering data on their trades, okay? There's candles, there's entries, there's market states. The other one I said was, oh, market positions, and then moving averages. Okay, so with the candles, the ones I talked to you guys about obviously are green and red. Okay, but out of the green and red candles, there's specific candles. Okay, so these are going to be specific candles that are most significant for entries. Okay, that I'm looking for. The first one is the big whale candle. Okay, which means that there's no, if it's a green one, then there's no selling pressure, just buyers, right? And then if there's a red one, then there's no buyers, just selling pressure. Okay, right? So it's the invert. That's the whale candle. The other one I'm looking for is the hammer candle, and I've showed you guys this before. It could be red or green. The last entry I'm looking for is a color change. So if it's a green taking out a red candle, that's a color change. If it's a red candle taking out a green, then that's a color change. Okay, so for example, let's go look at this alert I just got on STE. Okay, so there's a green candle from yesterday. Okay, it's a big elephant candle too. So we get that big elephant candle, and then what happens is we get this red candle here that takes out the green candle from the previous day. So you guys see how there's a green candle there, and then this candle opens up here and it starts dropping, and right here, boom, it takes out that green candle, and that's the entry for the short position. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody there? Everybody see what I'm talking about there? Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know if this is making sense, okay? This is key. You guys, if you can break down every thing, go back to this screenshot so I go back so I can screenshot what you wrote. Michael, I'm going to give you these notes. I'm going to post these notes in the chat for you guys when we're done. You guys, if you can break down your positions like this, then things are going to get a lot better, right? Market states. Okay, we have a positive state, or excuse me, okay, let me do this one first, positions. We have positive positions and we have negative positions. Okay, what is a positive position? A positive position is when the candles are above the 20-day simple moving average, and the 20-day simple moving average is above the 200-day simple moving average. Okay, so if we have this right here is not in a positive position because the stock is below the 20-day moving average. If we look at something like, let's see if we can find one in a positive position, WSM is in it's a red candle today, but it's in a positive position. Okay, the stock is over the yellow line, which is the 20-day moving average, and then the yellow line is over the green, which is the 200-day moving average. That's a positive position right there. Okay, and then the negative is the exact opposite. So the candles are below the 20-day simple moving average, and the 20-day simple moving average is below the 200-day moving average, simple moving average. Okay, makes sense? Pretty simple, right? Now the market states is a little bit different. We have wide markets and we have narrow markets. Okay, the wide markets, okay, what that means is that the stock, the 20-day SMA, and the 200-day SMA are far apart from each other. Okay, and this is all going to be relative to each stock. Okay, and then the narrow markets means that the stock, the 20-day simple moving average, and the 200-day simple moving average are close together. Okay, and that's also relative. Okay, so if I go back here, you guys can see that there's moments. Let's go to IBB, for example. Okay. Let me get rid of those so you guys can see this better. Okay, so let me scroll over a bit. And we're going to look around the beginning of June. So in the beginning of June, you can see that the stock is right there. The 20-day is right there. And the 200-day is right there. So this is a very narrow market because all of these things are close together. Okay. Those are all close together. You guys see that right there? There's the stock, there's the 20-day simple moving average, and there's the 200-day simple moving average. Okay. And so when we expand this out, see how it starts small? I'm going to put a box around the narrow market right there. All three components are close together. Remember, now now the market expands. See how it gets wider? Okay, now let's look at this. Stock is up here. The 20-day simple moving average is right there. And the 200-day simple moving average is right there. So you see, that's a wide market, okay? That's a wide market. Boom, wide market. That's a narrow market. That's a wide one. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense to everybody, right? I hope I'm explaining. I hope you guys can see what I'm talking about right there. Okay, so that's what we want. We want to observe if we have a wide market or a narrow market, okay? Now I'm going to explain why I want those two things, why I want to notice those things in just a second, okay? The moving averages, which are I've been talking about this whole time, are the 20-day simple moving average and the 200-day simple moving average, okay? Those are going to be my moving averages. These are going to be my market positions, either positive or negative. These are my market states. They're either wide or they're narrow. I have specific entry candles, and then in general, I just have regular candles. So these are all things that I'm going to be considering. I saw Jay doing this on TikTok live last night, but could not catch it all. Great to have him go it over again and watch it slowly. Yes, this is so key. Okay, we need all of this data. Okay, so let's say that we're going long. Okay, we can either take a long position, which means stock goes up. Okay, that's how we're profiting. Profit, let me do it this way. Profit equals when stock goes up. Okay, when I say a long position, I don't mean I'm holding it. It does not mean that I am holding the stock for a long time. It is simply the direction of the trade. Okay, so let's go up to all this data. What is ideal? Okay, this is what we want to ask ourselves. Is the question is what is What are the ideal conditions for going long on a trade? Okay? That's the golden question right there. So let's look at these, okay? Between the candles, do we want green candles or do we want red candles? Well, obviously we want green candles. Okay? So I'm going to put down all the things that we'll need, right? Candles, we're going to need entries, we're going to need market states, we're going to need market positions, we're going to need moving averages. Okay? I believe that's everything. Moving averages, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just 5 things, right? We got pairs of twos, right? So it's 5 pairs of twos to make it as simple as possible for you guys, okay? So candles, we want green candles. Entries, we're looking for the same thing. So we want either a whale candle, a hammer candle, or we want a color change. But in this case, the color change means we want a green candle to take out the previous red candle. Okay, so let's try to find an example of that. Well, let's go back on this daily chart for IBB. Okay, we can see right here, there's a red candle. So there's a green candle here. There's a single red candle, and the next day we get another green candle that crosses up that red candle there. So initially it actually ends up selling off, and then it starts making progress. And as soon as it makes progress and it takes out that red candle, then we hit the entry. Boom, we get into the trade. I set my stop under that red candle there. And boom, we got that winning trade right there. Okay. We get another massive hammer candle right there. So I take the stop and I move it up there. And then the next 2 days, we get stopped out of the trade for a profit. And that's how it's done. Okay. That's just an example of a color change. All right. The market state, if we want to go long on our trade here, then for the market states, we have either wide markets or narrow markets. Which one is better? Perfect. Please post on Discord. I'm going to post all these notes on Discord, guys. Don't worry. I actually already have a post about it too. Does anybody know if I want to go long on a trade, you guys? If I'm going to go long on a trade, then is it better to go long during the wide market or the narrow market? Wide. Dan says wide. David says wide. Alex says narrow. Okay, so narrow is correct. You remember, so you're going to notice that any stock you look at is going to go from narrow. See how it's narrow over here in Disney? And then it expands. It gets huge. It goes from narrow to this market is very wide now. Okay, so that's the market, and now this is the market. So it's huge difference, right? So that being said, when I go long on a trade, I want to enter the trade when the market is narrow. Ideally, I want to enter it when it's narrow. Okay, why? Because stocks are constantly fluctuating between, I'm going to say this here as a caveat, stocks are constantly in a back and forth between wide and narrow markets. Okay, so they're always fluctuating. Okay, it goes from narrow to wide, and then from wide back down to narrow. Okay, so now we're in a narrow market again in Disney. Okay, and that's most ideal because when you get in on the trade when it's narrow and then you let the market expand, then boom, you get that massive expansion. But when you get into the stock when it's narrow, so look at, for example, right? I took a trade on Apple. Now my mistake on Apple was that I took the trade on a wide market, right? The market is really narrow right here. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this stuff so you can see. This is where it's a wide market. Okay, that's a narrow market. I bought the trade in a wide market. Now, I took the trade here on this big hammer candle, right? That is one of our entries. It's a green candle. It's a hammer candle. So these are two signs that I could take the trade. Okay. So I take the trade up here. I set my stop below. But the problem is, and good thing I did set my stop loss because look where the stock is at now. I would be losing way more money, but I'm not. That's why we use the stop losses. But this is a wide market. It's ready to come back down. It's ready to collapse back into a narrow market. Okay? You guys see what I'm saying right here? So that's why I'm looking for, ideally, I want that narrow market. Okay? Market position. Like I said, we either have a positive market where the candles are above the 20-day and the 20-day is above the 200. Okay? So I want a positive positioning. Okay? And for the moving averages, I want the stock above the 20-day simple moving average, and I want the 200-day above, or I'm sorry, I want the 20-day above the 200-day simple moving average. Okay, these are my ideal conditions. I want green candles. For the entry, I'm looking for either a whale, a hammer, or a color change. Okay, I want a narrow market state with positive positioning. And as long as the stock is above the 20-day and the 20-day is above the 200-day, then I know that these are ideal conditions. Okay, it's like germinate a plant, right? If you try to grow a plant in a closet, okay, without light, it's not going to work. Okay, because those are not ideal conditions for it to grow. And if you want your position to grow, you need soil, you need water, you need light. That's what all this is. This is all the ingredients that are gonna that create an ideal environment. Okay, now let's talk about short positions. Okay, this is where we want the stock to go down. Let me write it the other way that I wrote it above. Profit equals when stock goes down. Okay, so this would be ideal for right now, right? We're looking at the S&P 500 is down. The Russell 2000 is dropping below its 200-day moving average. We have the NASDAQ, which is dropping down. And we also have, what was the other one that I forgot? Russell 2000, S&P, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange is also, look at that, breaking that long-term trend line, you guys. Long-term trend line. Big pullbacks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th straight day of pullbacks, you guys. The 6th straight day. There's that narrow market, and boom, expands. Expand your money. Okay, so let's look at the ideal conditions here. Okay, we have candles, we have entries, we have market states, I have market positioning, and I have moving averages. Okay, so the ideal candles for this is the red ones, right? Our entries are going to be the same. So we want a whale candle, a hammer candle, or a color change. Okay, color change in this case though means that we want a red candle to take out the previous green candle. Okay, everybody see how that works there? Now my market state, remember, it's either a narrow position or a wide position. So in this case, I'm going to look for a wide, because remember, when the stock is wide, okay, so for example, last time IBB was super wide. So see how the stock was all the way up here. The 20-day moving average was all the way here. And then the 200-day moving average was all the way here. So super wide market right there on this chart, okay? Back at that time. This was in February. And then once it goes from narrow to wide, what's going to happen? It's going to go from wide to narrow. Like I said, it fluctuates. Narrow to wide, wide to narrow, narrow to wide. Now we're in a wide market again. This was a wide market. Now it's coming back down. Okay, is this starting to make sense, guys? Are you guys starting to get some ideas here? So we want wide markets for these short positions here. Okay. Now the market positions, we want a negative position. Okay, we want a negative position. And then for moving averages, okay. We want that. So we want the, hold on one sec. So we want the stock below, obviously we want it below the 20-day simple moving average, and then the 20-day simple moving average needs to be below the 200-day simple moving average. Okay, and I messed this up. This one we also want narrow. Okay, and here's why. If I have a downtrending stock, okay, let me just go ahead and scan for some of these here. So I'm gonna give you guys some examples here. So price, and then we want moving average. Okay, so this one here, I'm gonna go ahead and change it down to a 20-day simple moving average. And then the next trade, I'm gonna go from a 20-day simple moving average and a 200 as well. These are the two that we're looking at. Okay, so now let's find this, right? Let's go ahead and take the 50-day moving average, and I want it to be below the 200, right? These are our ideal conditions, and I want the price to be below the 20. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that. Okay, so it's going to be kind of the same thing. You still want a narrow market, but we want it to be moving down. So for example, here's a narrow market, okay? Here's a narrow market. So if we're in a narrow market, that doesn't mean just to go long, okay? That means you can also go short, okay? The market state, and I'm just going to say this, the market state is basically, for me, I would say personally for me, I'm just going to say this in my own terms here. Personally for me, the market states give me an idea about whether to enter the long/short position or not. If the market has already expanded, then move on to something else. Okay, so I'm just going to get better conditions if I have a narrow market, and that's where I'm getting in either long or short. So it could go either way, long or short. It's just that it kind of gives me the timing. It's more for time. So that, yeah, if I could put this personally for me, the market gives me an idea whether it enters. So it's mostly about timing the market better. Okay, so that's going to kind of help me with my timing. Now, again, narrow market, but this time we have a negative position. So we have a negative position. It's still narrow. We have a negative position, and the stock is below the 20-day and the 200-day SMA. Okay, you guys see that right there? It's in a close, narrow market, but what happens, right? We get, let me scroll over one more time here. What we get is we have that green candle, okay? We have the red one, which does not take out this green candle. It's not until basically 2 days later, because this one doesn't take it out either. This candle here, okay, Boom, takes out the green candle. That's the entry right there. Okay, that's the entry. And then I take this stop and I'm going to put it above the green candle that got taken out. Okay, I'm going to put it at the high of that candle. Okay, and then it starts to fall and boom, we get that massive whale candle there. Another massive whale candle right there. And then we start getting those bottoming bars right there. So we see some buying pressure. So that's where we take the profit. Okay. See if this is making sure. If you had the same amount of short and long holds on a high dividend stock, you might just get free money. So, okay, is this making sense, you guys? So these are kind of like my ideal environments, okay? So, okay, hopefully that makes sense to you guys, right? So where did I mess up? Okay, let's take some examples, okay? Let's go back to the Apple trade here. I took the Apple trade in a wide market, okay? So I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. Okay. So let's see if we can find some that have a narrow market. So if you want to scan for a narrow market, I'm just going to click on my scanner. I'm going to drop out of the S&P. Hold on one sec. Okay. So watch this. I'm going to do price. Okay. Do we want to go long or short? Let's just do a long trade here. Okay. So I got a 20-day simple moving average. And I want to make sure that the price is above it. So the price is going to be above the 20-day moving average, right? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a moving average again, just like I would normally do. So I would add both of these. I would make it the 20 and the 200. So there's the 20. There's the 200. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want, from the 20 versus the 200, I want the 20 crossing up the 200. So it's narrow market so far. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see what we can find. Oops. Okay, hold on. I got to do my... Okay. So, for example, Netflix right here, narrow market. All right. So let's go ahead and take out these lines here. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot of this for you guys, and I'm going to post it here in the document. Okay. So we're going to take this example here. This is going to be Netflix and FLX. Is it? Yeah. Can't remember. Okay, Netflix. That's the chart right there. Okay, now let's analyze it, right? We have candles, we have entries, we have positioning, we have state, market state, and then we have moving averages. Okay, so simple. Now let's go and look at it. Okay, do we have a green candle or a red, you guys? Green candle or a red? Well, we got a green candle, right? We got a green candle here. So let's go ahead and put that down. Green candle. Okay, the entries, again, it's going to be either a whale, a hammer, or a color change. Okay, which means we want a green to take out previous red, which this is not the case. Okay, positioning. We have a positive position. Okay, that means the candles, okay, stock is above 20-day SMA, and then the 20-day SMA is above the 200-day SMA. Okay. The market state, we have a narrow market here. Okay, and then the moving average is, again, it's pretty much the same thing up here, right? So I guess we don't need to say moving averages if we already know that in a positive position, the stock is already above the 200-day and the 20-day SMA. Okay, so therefore, the direction of the trade, I can go long. This is based on the market conditions and environment. Okay. Everybody see that right there? The market is telling me go long. Go long on the trade. If you want to trade this, go long. So hopefully that kind of clears things up for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this. Okay, I'm going to download this as a document. And I'm going to put it into the cheat sheets channel. Okay, so the cheat sheets channel is going to be right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it in the live stream recap here. Okay, there you go, guys. Okay. So, all right, so let's move on here. Let's look at some of these market conditions now, or let's look at some of these stocks that are starting to turn around. Okay, so we got utilities, we have consumer defense, we have real estate, and we have healthcare. So let's go ahead and open up the utilities here, and let's just see what's going on with the volume. HNP, there's that one that we've actually looked at earlier. AES, okay, so this is a positive stock today, right? It's up 0.46%. There's a lot of volume coming in as well. Okay, now, what is the market telling you to do here? Okay, is it saying go long because the candles are below the 20 is below the 200? Is that saying go? I mean, it's a somewhat narrow market. It's not super wide or anything. Okay, we have a green candle. This is where a lot of people go wrong, you guys. You see a green candle, you see these big sell-offs, and you go, oh my God, I'm going to buy the dip, right? But what is this market telling you to do? Is it telling you to go long here? Is it showing you that the candles are below the 20 and the 20 is below the 200 and there's a narrow market, which means the timing is ideal for entries at the moment, but it's going to expand at some point, either positive or negative, but it's in a negative position. So what does the market want us to do? The market wants us to not go long. It wants us to go short. That's what it's saying. Okay. So basically, if this turns into a hammer candle or an elephant candle like this one here, where basically what you would do is you would take your entry at the last part of that candle and then take the stop and put it above the high of that candle there. Okay. This is saying go short. Now let's look at this. Okay, narrow market, very narrow market, so that's good. candles were trading above, but it's just not the ideal conditions. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at NFE. It's up almost 5.5%. It's 5.25 today. So a lot of people will see that rally and they'll go, "Oh my God, I got to get into the trade," and boom, that's where those sellers come back in. Okay, we get a an elephant candle right there. Okay, so you could always risk that trade if you wanted to. Set your stop there. KEN, it's already kind of a wide market. So you see how it started narrow, now it's expanded. SBS. Okay. You guys see that big fat hammer candle right there? Boom, enter the last part of it. Take your stop and put it at the top of that candle, the high of the candle there if we're going short. Okay? It's going to wiggle back and forth and then boom, you get that big rally to the downside. So that'd be ideal for shorting. Here's a big pullback. Okay, we're still in that wide market though. There's a narrow market, but dude, look at that elephant candle. Oh my God. That's insane. Boom, look at that. Enter at the last part of it, set your stop up here. Now it's moving. Okay, here's a company where the candles are above the 20 and then the 20 is above the 200. So these are ideal conditions if we want a long trade. Green candles, narrow market, positive positioning, moving averages check out. Okay. So this is something I'm a little more confident with utility wise. So, okay, so let's go ahead and start setting up the watch list for today. I think you guys are getting this down now. Okay, that's it for utilities. Maybe look at some of these defense stocks here. Also, if you don't want to waste your time, going through each one of these, you can always scan it and then set those conditions we always do. So you could just do a simple moving average filter. So you could put in moving averages here. And you could say a 20-day needs to be above. I mean, it really depends on the direction you want to go. But the 200-day is going to be below the 20. Okay, so let's look at this. Oh, and then I also want the price to be above the 20-day moving average here, right? We want positive positions. There we go. EL, what? Hold on, price needs to be, I don't know what happened there. Moving averages, simple. I want that at 20, come on, 20. There we go. Okay, now we got like 52 stocks. Okay, so let's find some narrow ones now, right? So we have stock, these are all positive positions in a positive sector in the market here, okay? Now, what am I going to do? I want to look for some narrow trades, see if there's anything that's still narrow, or see if it's kind of cost. So, right, Costco, for example, is in a wide market. Okay, this is a narrow market. This is a wide market. This is a narrow market. Now we're in a wide market. This is a narrow market. We have already put this on the watch list though, because we like it. Okay. So yeah, so this is how you can kind of go through. Look at this one, for example. Look at this hammer candle developing. If it can take out that red candle there, or if we get a hammer candle above that 20-day moving average, as well as the 20 and the 200, then that's a good thing, right? CNP, it's a little bit wide. Here's something a little more narrow, still in a positive position. I want that green candle to take out this red candle here. Okay. Here's a narrow market for you guys, right? The 200 is right there, the 20 is right there, the stock is right there. So it's all very close together. Now what we need is just one of those entry candles. So if this turns into a hammer candle today, if it turns into a whale candle, then that's a perfect little that's like an ideal setting right there. Okay, so I'm gonna put that on the trade setups for today as well. Yeah, good average volume as well. Okay. So that's kind of how I go through and do it, guys, just so everyone knows what I'm talking about. Looks like we're having a little comeback here in the Russell 2000. Yeah, so it opened low. It looks like we can probably get some stuff for a good price now. Coinbase dropped below. Look at that. So NIO. Rubino wants to take a look at Nikola, which I don't know why anybody buys this stuff. I mean, this is obviously a company that had terrible leadership. They're actually a fraudulent company too. So I mean, are you just trying? I don't know what you're trying to do with this stock. I mean, it's in a negative position. It's under the 20. It's under the 200. It's in a negative position. It's in a wide market, so it's not even ideal for entering. Ideal for entering for me is in a narrow market, and then selling comes in the wide markets. Okay. So let's look through some of these. Okay, so Penn is obviously in a not good position here. Square, it looks like it's making a little bit of a comeback for today. So I'll go ahead and add that to the trade setups. Starbucks, looks like we're getting a little bit of we didn't quite get stopped out of the IBB trade. We're still in that. ARRY, see, a good thing I canceled it. CRM, we have a somewhat, I mean, it's kind of in that wide market right now, but we're also going through for a breakout. So if this can break out, it's probably going to continue the upside. So I want to see if that's going to happen today or not. Voya is dropping below, so now it's going into a negative. It's trying to push into a negative position. Unfortunately, if it can get a bounce back, that would be a good little trade there, but it's not. Boeing back down to the long-term support here. So once Boeing gets down to maybe like 213, 214, I think that'd be a way to get a better deal. Delta Airlines is starting to drop out of the bottom end there. Disney is dropping down as well, but we're also getting a lot of forward progress today. So it looks like it's trying to bottom and it's trying to come back up. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the trade setups for today, and we'll watch it. Microsoft, the only problem with Microsoft, it's so wide right now. Okay, so check this out, right? Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, very narrow market. I mean, this is probably one of the most narrow markets that I have on my watch list. It's technically trading above. We just need that 20 to cross up. It looks like it's developing kind of like a hammer candle here. So if this green candle takes out that red candle, that'd be a good sign as well. Okay. CDNS. We got this massive green candle here that's overtaking it. Okay, we're just in a bit of a wide market at the moment, so I'll watch that for now. Square, here we go, starting to pop back up. Here's that one trade I had a little bit ago so for example, right, we got that, this is kind of a narrow market. It's not like super narrow or anything like that, but it's very close. Okay, and then what we have is we have a big green candle here, big green candle there, and then we have a red candle, which the next day takes out that red candle. So once it passes the high of the day, boom, entry. We take a stop, we put it under the low of the red candle, and then we see it, we'll see what happens with it. But that's how I would position it, right? It's in a positive position. We're in a somewhat narrow market. Moving averages are checking out. We have the entry. We have our stop. Everything like that, right? So hopefully I'm giving you guys enough examples here, but I'm going to put that on the watch list for today as well. Yeah, hopefully you guys are getting this down. NOW, a little bit wide. Okay, I don't know about that. HON is also pretty wide. Okay. VER. Snowflake. Look at that. Awesome. Boom. So this is kind of how I go through and do that, right? That's how I'm building out my watch list and stuff like that. Let's take a look at some of these other trades here. CDNS, that's the one. I don't want that one, actually. Alliance Bernstein, another positive day. It's a little bit wide. The only thing about this, though, is that the 20 is pretty reliable. I mean, it's taking out these two red candles here. We're kind of going in a positive direction now. ELF, look at that. Okay, this is a really good example, right? If I can get a color change here, meaning the green needs to pass the red high of the day yesterday. So if it passes 28.83 essentially, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a price alert. I'm going to say, hey, when it gets to 28.70, when it gets to 28.80, text me and let me know. So 28.80, color change is about to happen. I'm going to say green takes out red for possible entry in EL, okay, or ELF. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send a text to myself when that happens, and then I'll know when to make the trade. MARA, same kind of thing, okay? We have this candle that's trading above the 20, and the 20 is above the 200. It's in a somewhat narrow market. It was a little more narrow over here, but at the same rate, it still is somewhat narrow. It's not like super tight, but it's not super loose either. So yeah, those are pretty much, I think those are pretty much like my favorite setups for the day today. We got that Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which is starting to pop up on top. We have ELF, which is going on top of its 20-day, and we're starting to see a positive position there. And we could see a takeout entry point right there. XEL, same thing. We got some narrow markets here, guys. So this should be a nice little list, okay? So if everybody's getting this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a watch list for you guys so you guys can follow along if you want to see this. I didn't know it was fraudulent, but thank you. You didn't know that Nikola was fraud? Dude, you need to look up. Look, U.S. federal attorneys on Thursdays announced that they had charged billionaire entrepreneur Trevor Milton with 3 counts of securities and wire fraud, each of which carries a maximum sentence of 20 to 25 years in prison. He's going to prison because he lied about this company making prototypes, and nothing actually in this company happened at all. He just literally lied to people, and now he's doing time. That was pretty big. I can't believe you didn't hear about that. I hope you don't have money in that. I mean, if you don't know that, then I don't think you should be putting money in the company. Let's see what else here. Okay, so Nat wants to look at GPS. Okay, so this long-term trend line is starting to drop out. Why? Negative positioning. Okay, it's a narrow market. That's good. We have a green that's taking out a red. But do I want to take that trade? Well, no. I don't want to take that. I don't want to go long on this trade because there's a color change. I need those other conditions. I need this. The stock needs to be above the 20. Okay, this 20-day moving average is going down. Okay, so what does that mean? When you have candles under the 20 and the 200, that's saying that the market's telling you that it's wanting to go down. That's what it's telling you. Okay, so I wouldn't do that on the long trade. But BOTZ, look at that. That's a nice, okay, so positive position, right? The stock is slightly below, but it looks like it's starting to get some upward pressure. This is a nice little, yeah, I like this one. Let's add this to the watch list. That's a good find right there. Even though it's technically red right now, look at the 5-minute. There's a lot of progress happening right now. But essentially what's happened is there's a red to a green to a red. So that's kind of a color change in the wrong direction. But I don't think that this is going to be red for long. I think it's going to probably make some progress to the upside. And we're going to get this hammer candle, which is an entry. We have the correct market conditions. It's narrow, somewhat narrow. This is wide, okay? This is narrow. So that's a good find right there. Really good eyes there. CVM. Let's take a look. It's been doing pretty well. I sold the trade a while back, but it's been doing pretty well. I mean, it's up to $9.50 now. It's almost up to $10 now, guys. So remember, this was down at $7.40. I mean, this thing's up 30% in the past month or so, past couple weeks, actually. Let's see. CSV. Positive position, awesome. If you bought it when it was narrow, that's a good thing. Okay, now I want you to pay attention to these 5 candles here in a row. Almost 6 candles that's developing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, when you have big wicks on the top like this, guys, or even big wicks on the bottom, I want you to imagine this like a rocket, right? Like the square is like a rocket, and the wick on the top is like the fuel coming out. So I want you to imagine the rocket is going down because the fuel is coming out the top like this. So when you have 5, 6 candles in a row that's developing, it's telling you what direction it wants to go, right? So if I had to guess, there's a lot of downward pressure on the stock. When you see a green can like a candle like this where the fuel is coming out the bottom, it's saying, hey, I want to go up. It's telling you that it wants to go up. Boom, we get that upward movement. We get another hammer candle. Boom, upward movement. Another hammer candle. Boom, upward movement. And then guess what? We get these candles right here. It starts to move down slightly. It doesn't move down significantly, I know that. But let's look at these, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wicks on the top where it's saying, hey, we got fuel coming down, and boom, massive. Okay, so hopefully you guys are getting this down now, right? If you guys are still struggling with it, go into the notes that I posted for you guys in the cheat sheets channel, okay? Coinbase. I love Coinbase. Coinbase is an awesome company. I bought it at 214 down here and it was doing amazing. And then all of a sudden we had this drop here. Coinbase doesn't have a 200-day moving average yet. Why? Because it's new. It hasn't been trading for 200 days yet. Buddy says APP found on Open Insider. It doesn't have a 200-day moving average yet, which I'm not like super picky about that. It is technically in a positive position. I don't know how narrow it is because it doesn't have the 200-day. But it's got a nice development going on right there. Yeah. I don't know if are you already in the trade or not? If you're asking to get into the, like, would I get into the trade right now? I wouldn't. Because I need one of those entries. I need either a hammer candle, which hasn't happened. I need an elephant candle, which I guess you can consider that an elephant candle. There's wicks on either side of it, so it's not a true elephant candle. I ideally want something with almost no wick on the top. And plus it's been under the 20. So anything over the 20 so far, I mean, this is like the closest thing to an elephant candle. But even then, I don't know if I would even get into it. I think I would just need some more price history on it, to be honest with you. Nicola. Wow, crazy. No, I'm not invested, but my brother is, and he continues saying it's going to go up. I don't know. He knows. Yeah, that's what people on Reddit say, though. People on Reddit are talking about that crap or whatever. Can you talk about mRNA, Moderna? Okay, so the only thing with Moderna, look at what kind of market is that a narrow market right there? Or was Moderna much more narrow over here? Okay, they're expanded. That's why I was showing you guys the Apple trade, right? It's an expanded market that I took a trade in, and look what happened to me. I got stopped out of my trade. So I'm trying to help you guys not make the same mistake, right? When you have a wide market and you see a big elephant candle like that, you're gonna get your mouth is gonna water. You're gonna get into the trade. You're gonna set your stop down here. I mean, granted, you're not stopped out of this trade yet, but look what's been happening. Big pullback, right? Because we're in this big, massive, wide market. Okay. Speaking of, glad you're here, Jay, from yesterday. I don't know what you mean. LMT, reverse cup and handle. There we go. It's also in a negative position too. Yes, I'm learning. Noted. Can you talk about JMIA, which is pretty much in a negative position? Yep. We already knew that. There's that inverse head and shoulders that never played out, actually ended up bouncing down. Now it's in a definitely negative position here. Maybe you can find some support here at 17.90. We'll see. Okay, so I think those are pretty much my favorite setups, guys. I got to post the watch list here for everyone, so I'm going to end the stream. If you guys have questions, I'll be in the chat room for the rest of the day. Talk to you guys at 4. All right, guys, take it easy.